Hi, Brian Whitens filling in for Buck. Today I'm in Escanaba, heading for the waters of Lake Michigan with local bass pro Scott Cormier. We'll be targeting giant smallmouths as they move into the shallow bays of Little Bay De Noc.
Obviously one of Bay De Noc's beautiful smallmouth.
Then come on baby, take a free ride. It's Yooper Day at Pictured Rocks Cruises in Munising.
Upper Peninsula residents with a valid ID, they could come to Munising and take the Pictured Rocks cruise along the National Lake Shore for free.
It's all tonight on Discovering.
The secret streams that flow beneath the cliffs of colored stone, forest thick and healthy with birch and pine and oak, surrounded by the greatest lakes this world has ever known. The black bear's awesome presence as he roams the hills and fields, call of the timber wolf, the loon's lonesome trill, the eagle soaring high above, the trout lies deep and still. These are what I treasure, the only way I measure feelings that I have for this fine land. There is so much to discover when you're a long-time lover of northern Michigan.
When Scott called and asked if I'd like to hit Little Bay De Noc for some June smallies, it took me about a half a second to say absolutely. When someone says Little Bay De Noc, most of us think of walleyes. Walleyes are at the top of the list when it comes to table fare.
There she is.
But if it's a fight you want, this is a great place to pick one.
Boy, I love smallmouth.
There's not many fish that can put up a fight like 4 pounds of bronze on the end of your line. Quite possibly the most overlooked fish in the bay is the smallmouth bass. What this means for the bass fisherman is tremendous fishing in a shallow, quiet bay you might well have all to yourself.
Real bright fish there. He's been up in the shallows for a few days. Really light in color. Beautiful fish though. Yep. Big thing right now, we're just kind of searching this big flat for fish that are starting to cruise up here to spawn. And the ones that are very fresh are going to be a lot darker. The fish have just come out of real deep water. They're real dark, so they're a little bit easier to see. That fish I never even saw. I just threw it a rock and he was there. So got some fish that have been up here for a little while, some fresh fish, so should be a good afternoon. What we're actually trying to do here on this it's a big massive flat going up in a big spawning area. We're trying to catch the fish that are coming up through, transitioning from their winter staging areas, coming back up into the shallows. So we're trying to catch them as they're coming through, and they'll stop at these big boulders and just kind of rest, use it as an ambush point for crayfish or some of the alewives or even some of the old smelt that are going back out. So we're trying to see what we can do. There we go. Such a nice fish. Come here. There we go. Very nice fish. He wanted that Strike King too, but I tell you what. Nice 3.5, 4 pound fish. There should be one. That's got to be a fish right here. Yep. There he is. Oh, they got so much power out here. Another one just beautifully bright. Such beautiful fish. Let's get another one. When you hear the words little Bay De Noc or big Bay De Noc, you instantly start thinking walleyes, perch, big northerns. But up here, the smallmouth bass is really a overlooked fishery, and it's starting to get some notoriety. There he is. Well, fishing on Bay De Noc this year has obviously been a little bit different because we've had such an odd spring. It's been so cold this spring. I mean, we just had a 39-degree morning this morning, so everything is behind. I mean, the water temperature is way below what it normally is this time of year. The weeds are way down. The fish are spawning much later, obviously, this year. The walleyes spawned in May. The bass are actually spawning. We're going to probably see fish on beds on big Bay De Noc and probably some of the outlying islands probably in July, which you'll see every once in a while. So it's been a really odd spring.
Nice jump. These fish are so awesome.
Obviously, coming up to Bay De Noc now, we have spring patterns, which are actually usually we fish much earlier, so you're going to want to be in some of the shallow bays, some of the drowned river mouths, and getting up inside the reeds. Usually around Father's Day this time of year, they're almost done, but now actually they're really starting to get really good. So now's a great time to come up to the bay. And it's going to be totally different now once we get into the dog days of summer, you know, middle of August down to September. They start getting on more vertical drops out here on the lake. They're looking for the big sand piles and sand drops. And then in the fall, they start really getting onto the bluffs. So that way they get all really bunched up. So it's going to be constantly changing. Just give a call to some of the local tackle shops. They'll be able to help you guys.
You always want to have a second rod handy when you have a follow or a hit like that.
A lot of different lures in the spring are going to be a lot different than what we're fishing in the fall. The spring lures sometimes, well actually most of the time, I'm going to be sight fishing the fish. You're going to see them cruising on the shallow flats and you'll be fishing tube jigs, stuff that you can see, stuff that the fish can react to. Or in the fall, you're going to be fishing mostly deep structure, 20 to 30 feet deep. Still fishing with a tube and such, but much smaller, much heavier, compact lures. Now this time of year, what I really like to do is get up really shallow, under 5 to 6 feet on these big, long, shallow flats. And it reminds you a lot of bone fishing or fishing for redfish out in the ocean, where you're going to be up and you're looking for any type of movement or any irregularities on the bottom. So I'm looking for boulders, break lines, little clumps of grass, little dark spots on the flats. Anything that's a little bit different that'll help pinpoint these fish.
Obviously one of Bay De Noc's beautiful smallmouth. 19, 20 inches. Just starting to come up to spawn. Such a late spring we've had this year. These fish are just now starting to come up and get ready to spawn, lay their eggs. Lots of small males up here, but a beautiful small female. Beautiful iridescent colors. Just gorgeous. All the zebra mussels have really cleaned the bay up and cleaned the outer areas up, but now with the invasive species like the gobies, it's really changing the biomass of the lake. Before the smallmouth were feeding mostly on crayfish, on sculpins, on smelt. Really now they're changing to gobies. So what is going on is it's a very high protein fish, much smaller. That's why the tubes and the small shaky style heads, you know, that type of stuff is working really well because the fish are actually relating more towards structure that's covered with the gobies, and they're much more pinpointed during the summer and the winter months. Live bait was a great way to fish these smallmouth. I don't use live bait because most of the time I release my fish and they're going to be usually hooked too deep when you fish with live bait. But late fall, obviously smallmouth here on Bay De Noc love a red-tailed chub, you know, sucker minnows, you know, anything like that. A big fat head minnow on a jig, a leech, You know, obviously all that stuff will work for catching these smallmouth if you're coming into the area and you want to live bait fish for some dinner. Thank you very much.
Don't miss the Woodtick Music Festival in Hermansville, Michigan. 4 days of great bluegrass, country, folk, blues, and rock and roll. Over 25 bands, fun for the entire family. Carry-ins welcome kids 12 and under free. Buy your tickets and campsites and find out everything you need to know online at woodtickfestival.com. That's woodtickfestival.com. The Woodtick Music Festival in Hermansville, Michigan.
Yeah, just another nice little male. Well, usually with the males, this time of year, they're very skinny. The females obviously will have a lot more girth to them. They have a very small adipose fin. I'm watching the carp swim away and saw this bass actually give himself away. Showed himself. He didn't want the carp anywhere near him. Oh, almost too big to lift. Another nice Bay De Noc smallmouth. Boy, oh boy, we've had such a great day today. I tell you what, you're invited to come on anytime, folks. There you go. Hey, come off. Well, I think it's time for another tube. With this insider type jig head and a Strike King coffee tube, what you can do, instead of having to cut your line and put the jig head inside, you can actually take the jig head, put it in where you want your hook eye to go, slide it down, wet the tube head, just push it on in the tube. So that way you don't have to retie every time. Perfect. Another nice fish. People coming up on the bay right now are probably going to experience some of the biggest smallmouth they've ever seen in their life. Big blackie. With the biomass changing, you're seeing fish, truly, believe it or not, up to 8.5 pounds. We saw some fish today in the 6 to 7 pound class. But most of your average fish are going to be between 2.5 to 3.5 pounds. 5 fish for 20, 22 pounds is possible very much almost any day of the week. But even, all the different year classes from 12 inches all the way up to 25. Another beautiful fish. We'll let her go. Well, you can always tell a bass fisherman's had a good day by looking at his thumbs. So obviously both of my thumbs are pretty chewed up, so we had a lot of fish today. And most of our fish we caught today on a Strike King Perfect Plastics tube. It's going to be a coffee tube. This was actually a goby color. Got some purple, some gold in there, and it's all watermelon. They really react very violently to gobies because they like to raid their eggs. So it's a very, very good tube color. We also had some fish when we were out searching for other ones, throwing a Kvd Scorcher Strike King spinnerbait. This is a 3/8 ounce model, very light blades, very small blades, lets you burn it in really fast and keep it high in the water column. And obviously I have a trailer hook on it also. Some of the sight fishing we did today, we actually did with a rage grub. It's a very nice rage grub. It's on a VMC hooked jig head with a barbarian hook. It's very high in the water column. The fish like to look up at it, so you can bring it up over the top, just like a spinnerbait, but it's something they can fit in their mouth very easily.
And also some fish we had to throw back at many, many different times and with many different baits. And that's something you really should try if you have a stubborn fish. Like we were seeing fish actually cruising on the flats. Sometimes they would turn and look at something, but they wouldn't commit to it. So that's when I would throw sometimes this very gaudy Strike King Zero. Wacky rigged, it actually moves in the water very goofy, and the fish actually are very curious. Sometimes they'll turn and sometimes they'll just take that instead of anything else. Obviously we tried fishing, had a couple fish come up on top today. This Strike King Sexy Dog, one of my favorite colors, the bone with the orange belly. It's a great walk the dog action, got a little spitting in the front. I always put a large split ring on the front to help it walk side to side. But excellent, excellent bait. And then when the fish are a little deeper, as they were pulling up onto the flats, one of the best things to throw is the Kvd Jerk Bait by Strike King. This thing runs right around 7 to 8 feet deep. You can use it real erratic, walk the dog action underneath the water, and it really draws the strikes.
Pictured Rocks is one of the most visited tourist attractions in the UP. If you haven't seen it yet, you must. A great way to do that is with Pictured Rocks cruises out of Munising. I was there on Yooper Day.
Well, Brian, this is the second Yooper Day that Pictured Rocks Cruises have put on for Upper Peninsula residents with a valid ID. They could come to Munising and take the Pictured Rocks cruise along the National Lake Shore for free. We started this morning at 10 o'clock, and we've been running every hour, and every boat's been full up to right now, which is the 6 o'clock hour. And we've had a tremendous turnout.
On behalf of the National Park Service and Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore, we'd like to officially welcome you.
We've taken out already over 1,600 Upper Peninsula residents for free out on the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore.
Your cruise out to the Pictured Rocks today will cover right around 34 miles round trip. Should take about 2 hours and 40 minutes to complete.
On the Pictured Rocks National Lakeshore Cruise, or Pictured Rocks Cruises, you'll see about 16 miles of shoreline, 12 miles of sandstone cliffs reaching as high as 200 feet. You'll see 2 or 3 beaches that are pristine sand beaches. You'll see points, as you've seen maybe on Pure Michigan, Indian Head, Miners Castle, Grand Portal, Chapel Rock, Spray Falls. There's many signature sites on the boat tour, and we get very close up where you can take magnificent pictures, and the color's beautiful, the sun's on them in the afternoon, and it's a magnificent trip. And a lot of our business is repeat business.
This next large rock formation with an archway is known as Grand Portal. According to government charts, Grand Portal is the highest rock formation on the Pictured Rocks, just over 200 feet high. There used to be a series of caves and caverns used to extend out where the boat is now, and used to cover some 6 acres.
We get people from all 50 states. Last year, every state was represented here by at least 12 people, and we had 37 countries. 60% of our business comes from Michigan, with strong follow-up are Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, Wisconsin. It's a national lakeshore, one of the 4 national lakeshores in the country. Apostle Islands, Pictured Rocks, Sleeping Bear Dunes, and Indiana Dunes. The lakeshore was the first lakeshore founded in the country, National Lakeshore in 1966. This year, the Chamber joined in with the Free Day, and they put in 4 bands and some wildlife shows, some kayak exhibitions, and some board exhibitions where people can go out and try kayaking and paddle boarding. And there's a bird show that's going on, and 4 pretty well-known bands in the park, and it looks very busy all day.
Yeah, well, today was Yooper Day here in Munising, and we had all kinds of things that people could do. The cruises gave rides free all day. We gave free kayak rides in the bay over here for Northern Waters Adventures. We had a lot of people come out and try the kayaks for the first time. Hey, if you've never been to Pitched Rock Sea Kayak, it's really something you should do. This is right in our backyard. People come to our business for 25 years from all 50 states to see our backyard at Pitched Rocks, and they're just amazed at what's here. And I talked to a lot of people that have never been to Pitched Rocks in the UP. And at Pitched Rocks, the kayaking is incredible, and we've been taking out people with no experience kayaking before, people that have experience. They all enjoy being on the water. I think that if you're looking for some adventure, this is what it is right here in the UP. People come here and they do this trip, and they tell me it's one of the best things they've ever done, one of their best vacations. And so come on over and check it out. I think you'd like the kayaking. Don't be afraid of kayaking thinking it's a tippy boat. We have very few people flip over, and it's amazing how easy people catch on and get along the water, to go along the colors, go under the waterfalls, into the caves, over the shipwrecks. These cliffs are 150 feet high. It's like Michigan's Grand Canyon right here in our backyard. It's amazing. I think you'd really like it. Come on over and give it a try.
Hello, Ranger George here, Pitched Rocks National Lakeshore. Today is Yooper Day, free Yooper Day. We're taking people out on the Pitched Rocks boat cruises and telling people all about the park today, Pitched Rocks National Lakeshore. Lots of fun things to do here, kayaking, hiking, camping, plenty of things to see, plenty of waterfalls. We invited people to come back and maybe come through the park now that H58 is paved all the way from Munising to Grand Marais.
Well, that's it for tonight. If you want to see more Pitched Rocks, you'll just have to jump on a boat. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week right here on Discovery.